everybody that has joined today's session. Today, we are going to be going over, as Nick mentioned previously, the automations portion of the system. It's going to be a little bit of a refresh. We already did one session of these earlier in the year, but we've made some changes and we kind of want to bring those up into the spotlight. So with that being said, guys, first thing I do want to plug in is the fact that we do have an automations library in our knowledge base. So whenever you're in our knowledge base and you see this first initial page, if you click where it says view all, you'll be able to go to our automation library section, which is going to contain all of the articles, videos, and how-tos regarding automations and even some example automations that you guys could start to implement within your systems as well. Now, with that being said, one other thing that I do want to plug in, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave those in the QA section below. If you have any comments or questions after the webinar is over and you want to get in contact with support, you can go ahead and do so by chatting with us by clicking on this widget in the left-hand side. So make sure to do that. Now, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the meat of things, and we're going to be going into the automation library. So let's actually take it a step back and let's just look at it from the settings. So when we're in the settings, we are going to go all the way down and, oops, sorry, right here, skipped it. And we're going to go to where it says automations. This is where we can now create the automations that we want. We can obviously give this a specific name. Call this one test confirmation sent. We can give a description of what the automation is supposed to do. And then once we click create automation, it's going to be added to the list that we saw previously. And it's now going to show us essentially to choose a first step. Now, before I get into this, I'm going to be creating 3 automations with you guys that are all centered around confirmations. And the first one is essentially once a confirmation is sent, we're going to want to add a tag to this because this tag is then going to work with the second automation that we're going to create. The tag that I created for this specifically is called confirmation not signed. In a moment, I'll tell you why this is important. For now, let's go back to the creation of this first automation. So the trigger in this case is the confirmation itself being sent. Once the system has identified that the confirmation has been sent for a project or a job, in that case, what we want to happen is that we want a project tag to be added, which in this case is confirmation not signed. This is the very first automation that we're going to create, guys. Like I said, it's very basic. All we want the system to do right now is to add the project tag. So that way, the following automation that we're going to be creating, it's able to identify the specific jobs or projects with this specific tag. So once I've added this specific action, I can go ahead and click save. And now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and look for it real quick here in the list. Should be called test. Let's look for it here. Oh, we got a few tests here actually. Test confirmation sent, this one right here. All right, so we can see trigger, action, and a very important thing, guys, is the fact that whenever we create a fresh automation, it's always going to be turned off, meaning that we need to hit this button right here for it to be turned on, as we can see. But since this is just an example, I don't actually want this to be activated. I'm going to keep it off for the time being. Now, moving forward, guys, like I said, we're going to create another automation, which is going to be going hand to hand with this one. The intention of this next automation is to send follow-ups to our customers that have not signed the confirmation letter. So, for example, let's say I send a customer right now a confirmation letter, and I want them to get an update tomorrow, 2 days from now, and 3 days from now. For example, we're going to go ahead and do that with this next automation. So we're going to click create. We're going to give it a name. We're going to give it follow-up emails for confirmation. Description if we want. And we're just going to click create automation. Awesome. So the first one that we're going to have here is tags. So we want the system to identify that the confirmation not signed tag, the one that I showed previously, has been added to a project. So project tag added, all project types, and then here we're going to select the project type or the project tag, which is once again confirmation not signed. Now that we have this here, what we're going to want to go ahead and do is we're going to want to delay this 1 day. Why? Because again, this automation is going to be running in the backend at all times. And if I send the confirmation right now, that first automation is going to run and it's going to add the project tag. once that project tag is added, this one's going to run immediately. So that's why we don't want this to, or that's why we want to add this delay. So that way we have, like I said, 1, 2 days, 3 days, however many days in between the follow-ups and the first email being sent out. So in this case, I just want to delay this 1 day. We're going to click done. And one other thing that we're going to want to add is a stop if. Why? Because maybe between the confirmation being sent and this automation being triggered, the customer, maybe they did sign it, right? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to see where it says project, select property, move status, and is equal to booked. So what I set up here, guys, is stop if step, right? It's checking the project, specifically checking the move status, and it's saying that if the move status is equal to booked, then that's where that project will stop in this automation. It won't go any further. Because obviously, if a project or a customer is already showing up as booked, we don't want to follow up, right? Because that wouldn't make sense in this case. So now we click done. Now, in this case, what we do want to do is set up the actual email step that we're going to be sending as the follow-up itself. So we're going to be choosing where it says send email. And now it's going to ask us to actually select a template. So in this case, this is where we would want to have, one or various emails, which would work as our follow-ups for confirmation letters. Right now, there may not really be one here in the system, so I'm just going to go ahead and choose one randomly. This one seems like it could work. It's called quote reminder template. However, like I said, we want to create specifically, templates for this type of use case. So we click done. So with this setup, guys, I'm going to go over one more time. We can see that once the confirmation not signed tag is added, this automation is going to trigger. It's going to delay it 1 day, and it's going to stop the automation for any projects that are now in booked. If a project is in another status other than booked, then that's when it's going to move on to this next section or this next action, and they're going to receive the email, right? The follow-up email in this case. So that would be pretty much it when it comes to this part of the process. And all we have to do now is click Save Automation. Thanks to the updates that we've recently made to the automations section of the system, creating automations, as you can see, have become much more easier and much more understandable as well. Not to say that previously was a little bit more complicated. It was just a little bit, there was more steps in place to be able to create these automations. But now we've simplified the process and made it way more user-friendly, which is obviously what we're striving for. So like I said, guys, we have the second automation in place. So just to recap, we have the automation where it's adding the tag. We now have the automation where it's sending the follow-ups. And now we're going to want to create an automation that's going to automatically remove the tag for us. So that way it doesn't keep running the same project through the automation over and over again. So what we're going to do once again is click where it says create automation. We're going to give it a name, remove project tag in this case. We're going to create automation. And in this case, the trigger for this one is going to be a little bit different. The trigger here is the confirmation being completed. So once the system identifies a project that the confirmation has been completed, what we then want it to do is to remove any project tags, in this case, specifically the one called confirmation not signed. So very simple, very straightforward. Now that we have this in place, we can go ahead and save automation. And with that, guys, in less than 20 minutes, we created 3 automations for 3 different purposes that are essentially going to help us a little bit in terms of automating certain processes and certain things in the system itself. So that way, if you maybe don't remember to add or remove a tag, that's where automations come into play and pretty much help us create these specific workflows. Now, these were just a couple of examples that I provided, but there are many possibilities when it comes to creating automations. And once again, just to plug our help center, you can find all of those great ideas and all of those great automation examples within our automations library. But for now, guys, this is my time. Again, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to use the QA button at the very bottom. We're going to be saving some time for that. And if you have any questions afterwards, remember you can hit us up through the chat widget in the bottom left corner over here, and we'll gladly be helping you out. All right, so we'll be leaving a couple of minutes for questions in case any of you have anything on top of your mind. Thank you very much. Hope everybody has a great day.